Eliminating hazard and risk in hospitality industry. I am Leia Myca Briones from BSHM 1103. What is hazard? The meaning of the word hazard can be confusing. Often dictionaries do not give specific definitions or combine it with the term risk. For example, one dictionary defines hazard as a danger or risk, which help explain why many people use the terms interchangeably. There are many definitions for hazard, but the most common definition when talking about workplace health and safety is a hazard is any source of potential damage, harm, or adverse health effects on something or someone. Basically, a hazard is the potential for harm or an adverse effect, for example, to people as health effects, to organizations as property or equipment losses, or to the environment. What is risk? Risk is the chance or probability that a person will be harmed or experience an adverse health effect if exposed to a hazard. It may also apply to situations with property or equipment loss or harmful effects on the environment. These are the examples of hazard and risk that you may encounter.
In order to make sure your employees and others, such as visitors, are kept safe from harm, you must assess the risk arising from slips and trips and take sensible precautions to reduce these risks to as low a level as possible. Some simple things to consider include spilled substances. Spills from food or cooking are among the main causes of slips and should be immediately cleaned up. Post warning signs around spills or wet floors. Flooring. Regularly check flooring condition and don't put off repairs. As a temporary measure, highlight any damaged areas and, where possible, keep people away. Unexpected trip hazards. Make sure boxes, bags, cables and other obstacles aren't left lying around. Storage should always be provided for incoming deliveries and staff belongings. Cleaning. Most slips happen on wet or dirty floors, so it's important to ensure floors are cleaned regularly and kept free of water and grease. Anything on the floor should also be quickly and effectively removed. Make sure cleaning is correctly carried out and use slip-resistant waxes to polish and treat floors. Ways to further reduce the risk of injury include installing non-slip tiling or other non-slip products, using rubber mats in areas where floors are constantly wet, and encouraging staff to wear non-slip footwear. These measures are simple and inexpensive to implement but will help to prevent costly fines. Training is essential to enable workers to carry out their tasks safely, without risk to themselves or others. As well as being fundamental to reducing accidents, it is also a legal requirement under the Health and Safety at Work Act, HSWA, 1974, so it's an area you can't afford to overlook. Use the following 3 steps when training staff. Prepare the worker. Explain the job in detail, including any hazards, safety precautions or required personal protective equipment. Train the worker. Demonstrate and describe specific procedures. Have them perform procedures until they can do them exactly as required. Check progress. Monitor workers to ensure safety standards are being maintained. Make unscheduled checkups and correct any unsafe work habits. Even the simplest of tasks should be explained fully to all employees. If a written safe system of work for the task is available, provide the worker with a copy. Equipment. Common equipment, such as general maintenance equipment and electrical tools, may cause serious injury, and poorly maintained equipment is a significant cause of accidents in the hospitality industry. Regular maintenance by competent staff will help to ensure equipment performs well and reliably, and help to prevent accidents. Of course, the maintenance itself must also be done safely. Hazardous chemicals. Many different types of hazardous cleaning chemicals are used in the hospitality industry, including drain cleaning products, oven cleaners, disinfectants, toilet cleaners, bleach, sanitizers and descalers. When using or handling chemicals, always use the least hazardous chemicals. Wear personal protective equipment, for example, gloves, face mask, long sleeve clothing and, if required, respirator. Store chemicals safely and securely when not in use, and make sure safety data sheets are available where hazardous chemicals are stored and used. They provide safety advice and details of the chemical, how to minimize risk. Most workplace injuries and illnesses can be prevented if workplace hazards are identified and the risks from them removed or minimized. Ways to minimize risks include making sure workers follow these safe ways of working and use appropriate personal protective equipment. Modifying work processes or equipment to make them safer, for example, by evaluating safety features when buying or replacing equipment. Regular safety inspections to help to identify hazards so that you can assess and control any risks. Risk assessment is vital in identifying hazards and minimizing the risks posed to your workers, visitors, and business, as well as complying with the law. It will help you focus on the workplace risks that really matter, in other words, the ones with the potential to cause real harm. In many instances, straightforward measures can readily control risks. For example, simply introducing a rule that all spillages must be cleared up immediately will significantly reduce the chances of someone slipping. What are the most common hazards in a workplace? The words risk and hazard are often used interchangeably. However, if you are responsible for managing the health and safety in your workplace, it's important that you understand the difference between them. The 6 main categories of hazards are: biological hazards include viruses, bacteria, insects, animals, etc., that can cause adverse health impacts. For example, mold, blood and other bodily fluids, harmful plants, sewage, dust and vermin. Chemical hazards are hazardous substances that can cause harm. These hazards can result in both health and physical impacts, such as skin irritation, respiratory system irritation, blindness, corrosion and explosions. Physical hazards are environmental factors that can harm an employee without necessarily touching them, including heights, noise, radiation and pressure. Safety. These are hazards that create unsafe working conditions. For example, exposed wires or a damaged carpet might result in a tripping hazard. These are sometimes included under the category of physical hazards. Hazards are a result of physical factors that can result in musculoskeletal injuries. For example, a poor workstation setup in an office, poor posture and manual handling. Psychosocial hazards include those that can have an adverse effect on an employee's mental health or well-being. For example, sexual harassment, victimization, stress and workplace violence. Examples of hazards could include working with heavy machinery, using chemicals at work, a poorly set up workstation or strained office relationships. Example of risk would be a danger that these situations may pose, for example, physical injury, chemical burns, RSI or increased stress levels.